Do you recognize me, mountain man? Said the beautiful bride, I was your childhood neighbor. The wind howled through the jagged peaks of the Rockies, carrying whispers of snow and secrets from the valleys below. Elias Kane, known to the locals as the Mountain Man, stood at the edge of his cabine's porch, his weathered hands gripping a steaming mug of coffee. His beard was flecked with gray, his eyes sharp but tired, etched with years of solitude. At 52, Elias had chosen this life, a life of quiet, of self-reliance, of mending his soul after the world had bruised it. But tonight, the air felt different, charged with something he couldn't name. A figure emerged from the dusk, a woman in a flowing white dress, her veil catching the last rays of the setting sun. She was a vision, a bride lost in the wilderness, and as she approached, her voice trembled with a question that stopped Elias cold. Do you recognize me, mountain man? I was your childhood neighbor. Elias squinted, his heart thudding against his ribs. The woman's face was unfamiliar yet hauntingly familiar, like a melody half remembered. Her dark eyes sparkled with a warmth that pierced the chill of the evening, and her smile carried a weight of years. I'm sorry, ma'am, he said, his voice gruff from disuse. I don't recognizo. She stepped closer, her wedding gown muddied at the hem, her hands clasped tightly. It's me, Elias. Lila Monroe. From Willow Creek, all those years ago. The name hit him like a stone, stirring memories buried beneath decades of frost. Willow Creek. The small town where he'd grown up, where life had once been simple, before loss and regret had driven him to these mountains. Lila, the girl next door, with pigtails and a laugh like summer rain. But this woman, elegant, poised, radiant, was she truly the same? I don't understand, Elias said, setting his mug down, his hands unsteady. What's a bride doing out here, miles from anywhere? Lila's smile faltered, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I'm running, Elias. From a wedding I couldn't go through with. I needed to find you. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Elias gestured for her to come inside, his mind racing. The cabin was sparse, wooden walls, a crackling fire, a single chair by a table scarred with time. Lila sat, her gun incongruous against the rough-hewn surroundings, and began to unravel a story that would change everything. Lila spoke of Willow Creek, of the summer they were 10, when Elias had been her protector. He'd been a quiet boy, always tinkering with broken things, bicycles, radios, arts. When Lila's father lost his job, their family faced eviction. Elias, with no money of his own, had spent weeks collecting scrap metal, selling it to buy groceries for the Monroes. They left the bags on their porch at dawn, never saying a word. You thought no one knew, Lila said, her voice thick. But I saw you. I never forgot. Elias shifted uncomfortably, the memory a faint ember. They'd done it because it was right, not for thanks. But Lila's story didn't end there. She spoke of her life after Willow Creek, how her family moved away, how she'd built a career as a nurse, driven by the kindness Elias had shown her. She'd fallen in love, or so she thought, with a man who seemed perfect until he wasn't. Today was supposed to be my wedding, she said, her voice breaking. But I realized he didn't love me, not the way I deserved. I couldn't marry him. I needed to find you, to thank you, to remind myself what true goodness looks like. Elias' throat tightened. He wasn't a hero, just a man who'd done what he could. Why me? He asked. Why now? Lila reached into her small satchel and pulled out a worn photograph, its edges frayed. It showed two children, Elias and Lila, grinning by a creek, their fishing poles forgotten in the grass. This, she said, kept me going. When life got hard, I'd look at it and remember you. You gave me hope, Elias. And now, I need to give it back. Elias stared at the photo, his chest aching. I'd buried that boy long ago, after his own losses, his parents, his wife, his faith in the world. I'd fled to the mountains to escape pain, not to be reminded of it. Yet here was Lila, claiming I'd shaped her life. The conversation shifted as night deepened. Lila revealed she'd tracked him down through old letters and rumors of the mountain men who helped stranded hikers and fixed broken gear for nearby townsfolk. She'd driven hours, her wedding dress her only armor, to find him. But there was more, she wasn't just running from a wedding. She was running toward something. I want to start over, she said. I want to help people, like you did. But I don't know how to begin. Elias leaned back, the fire casting shadows on his face. It wasn't used to being needed, not anymore. I ain't no god, he said. I'm just a man living alone. But Lila's presence stirred something in him, a flicker of the boy they'd been. He thought of the hikers they'd guided to safety, the meals he'd quietly left for struggling families in town. Ede told himself it was nothing, just survival. But Lala saw it differently. You're still that boy, she said. You never stopped giving. Her words were a mirror, reflecting a truth Elias had avoided. He wasn't just surviving, he was still mending things, still helping, even if he hid it behind gruff solitude. The turning point came when Lala shivered, her thin gown no match for the mountain cold. Elias fetched a blanket, draping it over her shoulders. As he did, his hand brushed hers, and he saw the fear in her eyes, not of him, but of the uncertainty ahead. Stay here tonight, he said, surprising himself. We figure it out come morning. Lila nodded, gratitude softening her features. They sat by the fire, sharing stories of Willow Creek, of dreams they had as children. Elias found himself laughing, a sound foreign to his own ears. For the first time in years, the cabin didn't feel empty. Morning broke with a golden haze over the peaks. Elias woke to find Lala already up, brewing coffee with his old pot. She looked different in the dawn light, less like a bride, more like the girl they known. Ibe decided, she said. I'm going back to Willow Creek. There is a clinic there, underfunded, serving folks who can't afford care. You want to work there, maybe start a program for kids like us. Elias raised an eyebrow. Big plans for a runaway bride. She laughed, and it was that summer rain sound he remembered. But Lila's resolve sparked a realization in Elias. They'd been hiding, not living. His acts of kindness had been quiet, almost accidental, but they rippled outward. Lila was proof of that. I'll drive you down the mountain, he said. But I'm coming with you. Not for a bit, just to see you settled. Her eyes widened. Do they leave this place? He shrugged, a half-smile breaking through. Maybe it's time I remembered who I was. The journey down the mountain was quiet, the truck rattling over dirt roads. Elias glanced at Lala, her gown folded in the back, replaced by one of his old flannel shirts. She looked determined, alive. At the base of the mountain, they stopped at a diner, where locals whispered about the mountain man and the bride. Elias ignored them, but Lala didn't. She stood, raising her coffee mug, and said, "This man saved me, long ago and now. It's proof kindness never dies." The diner fell silent, then erupted in applause. Elias ducked his head, embarrassed, but his heart swelled. In Willow Creek, the clinic was as Lala described, run down but vital. Elias stayed a week, fixing leaky pipes, hauling supplies, even teaching a kid how to repair a bike. Lala threw herself into her work, her nurse's hand steady and sure. One evening, as they sat by the creek from their childhood, she turned to him. "You could stay, you know. This town needs you." Elias looked at the water, sparkling under the stars. He thought of his cabin, the solitude they once craved. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe I'll visit. But I ain't hiding anymore." The emotional climax came on the day Elias prepared to leave. The townsfolk gathered, not just for Lala, but for him. A young mother approached, her son clutching a toy Elias had fixed. "You don't know what you've done for us," she said, tears in her eyes. Others nodded, sharing stories of his quiet generosity, food left on porches, tools repaired, lives touched. Elias stood frozen, overwhelmed. They thought his actions were small, unseen. But they woven a tapestry of hope, binding him to this community, to Lala, to the boy they'd been. As he drove back to the mountains, Elias felt lighter, the weight of years lifted. Lila's words echoed, "Asterisco kindness never dies." Asterisk he didn't need to stay in Willow Creek to carry that truth. They returned, not as the mountain man, but as Elias, the man who mended things. The photograph of him and Lala now sat on his cabin table, a reminder that one small act could ripple across decades, across lives. He smiled, knowing they'd see her again, knowing they never again doubt the power of a single, selfless deed. The sun set over the Rockies, painting the sky with promise. Elias Kane was no longer just a man alone. He was part of something bigger, a thread in the fabric of humanity, woven by kindness, strengthened by hope. And somewhere, in a small-town clinic, a woman in a borrowed flannel shirt was starting anew, her heart full of the same truth, that one act of compassion could change the world, one neighbor at a time.